I went to court, thought it was court today, but no. Okay. My brother and I had this talk. My brother tried to constantly manipulate me today about forgiving and forgetting. Talking about forgiving and not forgetting is petty and holding a grudge. But let me tell you guys this. Forgiving and forgetting, if you forget as an act of forgiving, you will literally become forgetful of everything else. And it's going to be a trauma response. As a trauma response, it happened to many women out there who's always forgiving and forgetting. Like, I've been there before. Like, I've been there before when it comes to forgiving and forgetting. Thank God for the deliverance. But I've been there before. Like, you could literally choke me 1 second. And then hug me the next moment. And then I will forget it as a thought, as disguised as forgiving, and then just move on with it. Like, whenever I forget something, it gets so toxic. Whenever I forget something, my mom gets mad with her bad anger issues, being like, "You don't forget. Stop forgetting." Like, that's just toxic. But yeah, my brother's saying forgive and forget. Like, don't forgive and forget. Okay? Like, here's the thing. My brother likes to say that Jesus said in the Bible, God said, it does say in the Bible, Jesus will never, Jesus won't remember your sins anymore. Like, he will remember your sins no more. But what he meant metaphorically is Jesus won't mention your sins anymore. But here's the catch to that. But it's a metaphor. So here's the catch to that. That sin of yours, whatever sin you have, will be mentioned if you act like you have no sin. Your sins will be mentioned if you act like you have no sin. It don't matter if you're on earth. It don't matter if you're in heaven. If you act like you have no sin, if you deny your sins, if you deny that you were a sinner on earth, then you deny that Jesus died on the cross. Like, Jesus is gonna be in heaven still with these holes in his hands, and his feet, with these holes in his hands and his feet, as a remembrance to what he did for us on the cross. Like, if we act like we ain't got no sin, we're denying what Jesus did for us on the cross. And that mentality, thinking that we got no sin, is going to take us to hell. Just like that. So it's like, God will mention your sins if you act like you have no sins. It don't matter if you're in heaven or on earth. God will mention your sins if you act like you have no sin. That is called holding somebody accountability. That's called taking responsibility. That's called holding yourself accountable. That's called holding somebody accountability. Holding somebody accountable. Yeah. And if you forgive and not forget somebody else's sin, like if you forgive and not forget somebody else's sin, you're protecting yourself from being back into that toxic environment again. You can forgive and not trust somebody. Okay? But one of the pastors from that 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 hip hop church, one of the pastors from that hip hop church, he said you can forgive but not trust somebody. Like, oh, I don't, because your last memory of them is them being toxic. You can forgive somebody and not trust them. You do not have to easily bring them back into your life. You don't have to bring them back into your life and then they get hurt. And then get hurt over and over again. Because sometimes people are only upset because even if they're going through something, they do not have to have access to your life. Because sometimes people are only upset because of what they're going through. They don't care about what they did to you. Like, I don't owe you access to my life. I don't owe my mom access to my life. I can forgive, but I forgive you. Like, here's the thing. To all my family members out there, like, here's the thing. I forgive you. But I do not owe, like, here's the thing. I forgive you. But I'm not going to forget because I'm protecting myself from you. That's how I protect myself from you. Okay? I do not have to easily give you access to my life. That is what forgetting does. And that is what I've done. I've experienced it. And you don't know what that means. And you don't know what that's like. Don't say, but how do you know that? I know from experience. Tired of going back to y'all and getting hurt over and over again. Y'all pain. I love y'all, but stay away from me. So I'm going to tell you this. Forgetting, like, here's the thing. Forgiving and not forgetting is not petty. It does not mean you're holding a grudge. If you forgive and not forgetting, like, here's the thing. If you're constantly angry and always seeking revenge because you don't forget, you're holding a grudge. If you're constantly angry all the time because you don't forget, you're holding a grudge. But if you are, let me say this. Excuse me. But if you are just not forgetting just to protect yourself from getting hurt again, that's nothing wrong. That's a healthy way of not forgetting because you're protecting yourself. You don't want the same things to happen to you again. Like, I understand because here's the thing. I've been going back to my mom for years and nothing has changed. My mom is still toxic. My mom rarely changes her ways. And my brother's going to be like, how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know? Dude, idiot. I'm sorry. Excuse me, but I could have said that nicely. Sorry, bro. But if it takes my mom that long to change, then she's never going to change. I'm tired of waiting for her to change. I'm going to leave her to herself. I don't owe her anything. I don't have to come back to her. She might change tomorrow. She might change the day after. She might change somewhere in the future. But I do not have to be around to wait for it. I'm going to let God deal with her. My brother always liked to be like, how do you know that? How do you know that? He always liked to confuse me. My brother is so manipulative. Like when we had that conversation, I was tuning out everything that he said because he ain't making any sense. He's just articulating his words, explaining, and just coming up with words, just trying to say how I'm wrong. I'm sitting there like, my brother, he that lady was right. The reason why he's defending my mom is because he's a narcissist too. Like when I saw his face was more devious looking when he smiles. Like I knew when he smiled that way, he looked like he was a demon. I knew when he smiled that way, I was dealing with a demon. This guy, the way how he was sounding, he was sounding more high pitched when he was talking, trying to manipulate me. When he was trying to manipulate me, the tone of his voice was over high pitched. It was manipulative. Like it was, his tone was so high pitched. It was manipulative. It was demonic. Like this dude, I knew I was dealing with a demon. God showed me his true colors right there. And like how he sounded when he was talking to my staff, ooh, he sounded very cocky. But what I did, I just let him have it. Well, I just let him win the conversation because I can't win the conversation with this guy, so I just let him have it, and I just be like, I'm still going, I'm still leaving, I don't owe you anything. So yeah.